to think.
I do have a dream.
I need to do that someday. I keep saying someday and someday. I can't, I mean, I could log in, I think I did one time on Zoom, I'm like, it's almost, yeah, I'm there. You know, like, you're there.
It was horrid. Beach
Oh,
club.
yeah.
Down.
Something was,
Yeah.
you guys were doing training today, what you guys do to the TV?
Check the input.
No, it was just working, Sue. I just saw everybody.
You did, just saw everybody?
We have nothing on our thing.
All right, now that's, the other way.
What now?
Now I'm looking at you and Taylor and the other screen. There we go. That's it.
Okay, I see it up top.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're off. TV just went off.
I don't care.
So wait, now you guys can't see me, but I can see you?
Yes, we can see you.
Oh, you
No.
can, okay.
You can see
Oh, I
him.
can see.
You can see him.
See you.
Taylor
Listen,
can
it's
see
been a
you.
minute once because I couldn't get the information, trying to get in, Taylor and I trying to get into my email to get the documents for 280 Shetucket. Are
Oh,
there large prints here?
I don't have the big maps. But I mean, ultimately, we don't really need to look at the maps yet because it needs to be scheduled for a public hearing because it's a resub.
Technical difficulties. Oh. that was process. Hey,
We see you, John.
All right, I think we're good. I'm gonna hit record.
Great. I'd like to call to order the meeting for May Planning and Zoning Commission 2023 to order
At
7:02. Members present. Myself, Steve Stefanski.
David Demonin.
Pat Ray.
Jim Zockerly. You won't be seeing anybody, there's nobody. We need to do this, David, before we do the approval of the minutes.
Yeah, just go step by step.
Yeah. Motion to add citizen comments to the agenda. Motion.
No, approval minutes.
Woohoo.
Isn't citizens comments already number 5?
No,
He was
it's
looking
my
at the
mistake,
minutes.
John, my mistake.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Wasn't prepared to. Have to read it. Everybody look over the minutes from the last meeting.
Looks good to me.
Need a motion.
Me as well. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April, what was the date? 12th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
David
Opposed?
Beeman and then Patricia Ray. Guys, make sure you say your name when you do.
Absolutely.
Second.
Motion passed. Citizens' comments. Moving on. New business, 280 Shetucket Turnpike, Daniel Plow, re-subdivision. Which we don't have prints for unless, John, you can have them on your,
Sue, if you can enable me to share, I'll put it up on the screen.
Don, was he supposed to be here tonight?
Not necessarily. It's so, okay, this is a little bit complicated and we'll get into it basically next month. But this is a re-subdivision on Shetucket Turnpike. It's a complicated family property. I'm gonna zoom way in. You can see the site. Can you see this location map at the top of the screen? where you have Rockville Road to the south, Chautauqua Turnpike going up to the northeast, along the Patchogue River, over to the west of Wiley School Road. It's this rather complicated looking parcel, with a pond. And there are a couple of, historic rear lots on this, property. And they recently did, a lot line adjustment that gave them additional frontage on Chautauqua Turnpike, so that this parcel up front here was no longer a rear lot. And so they were able to add another rear lot onto this common driveway. And so they're splitting up these parcels in the back, to create one new additional lot, and I believe it's lot 1. That are along the Stillwater Pond of the Patchogue River. So it's a sort of a lot line reconfiguration and the creation of a new lot that was enabled by, the establishment of a frontage lot. But ultimately, this is a re-subdivision. It's not the first division of this land, and so by statute it requires a public hearing, which means there's really nothing to discuss or decide today. We just need to formally receive it and schedule it for public hearing in either June or July. And that at that time the applicant and their team will do the presentation.
They pay the fees.
I don't know, Taylor did, I don't think they did yet.
Let me see. I can tell. Yeah.
Hey, we shouldn't schedule
Right, you didn't.
Correct.
So John, if I'm correct then, so that front lot, there's already a house on it,
Correct.
so they're just adding a common driveway to the rear 3 lot.
So the common drive already exists. There's already a, oh, actually, is it lot 3?
There's already a house there.
It says proposed house. So that it's lot 3 is the new one.
Okay, so that's a new common driveway then.
It's an existing driveway, but it would access it's an existing driveway over here. And it, I believe it accesses some of the property over here, already. And so it would just be, another lot accessing off of that common drive.
Well, so lot 1, 2, and 3 would be accessing off of it, correct?
Correct.
There's only one house on the entire property right now.
I think that's right.
And that's on 1.
That's in that, no, it's in the area.
That's right here in the existing frontage lot. But I think a couple of these already exist, and this would be adding a new lot to be accessed off of the common drive. That, and yes, I think houses could be built here, but these are already existing lots. But I believe they haven't been built yet.
So those 2 have already been approved.
Correct.
Oh, so they're just looking for,
So they're looking for this new lot.
did you say they paid? Yes, no?
They did not.
They have not. Because it's a subdivision, and I mean, obviously paying is better, and that would be a reason to deny it. At this point, I think I would not recommend choosing not to receive it, because the statutory time clocks, for applications on subdivisions can be squirrely. And as long as they submitted an application, they can kind of trigger the time clock, and I don't want to screw that up. But if they fail to pay it by the time of public hearing, well, that's an easy denial. But I would recommend.
We do even run the public hearing when the funds that pay for the hearing notice are paid from the funds from the applicant.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's,
Not the public hearing.
it's not direct. It's sort of, funds receivable, funds payable. I think the town, well, it's up to you guys. But it's not like there is no money in the town budget to pay for a public hearing notice until someone pays their dues. If they ultimately don't cough up the money, then I potentially we're out those,
Can we do this? Can we
Good luck.
receive the prints not schedule the public hearing until July as long as they pay their dues by the June meeting? Or I say dues, but their fee.
Yeah, the fee, you could, I mean, yeah, you could schedule the public hearing for July. And if they don't pay it in the next month, then we could, yeah, hold,
We have to start advertising for the,
yeah,
2 weeks ahead.
okay, so in other words, we wouldn't be spending anything if we waited till June to actually schedule it till July.
Right, they would have to.
We
pay
could
it.
receive it, so it doesn't screw up the timeline, but they
Right.
get us their
Yeah.
fees.
So tonight is the official start of the clock, correct?
correct. So, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to hold off the public hearing until July to make sure that they're paid, that's fine.
And they have until August 10th then, so.
No, so you have from the date of receipt, you have 65 days in which to open the public hearing. So at this meeting, you should schedule the public hearing. Well, I suppose you don't have to. I suppose you don't have to name the date.
Schedule it next month as long as they paid.
Yeah, but then that would open it either way. It would open in July.
Right. Because
Yeah. All right. Well, so you can. Yeah. I mean, if you want to deem this received and then table it, that's fine.
Oh, I'd love to see it. I know it was on the computer,
Right.
but I'd love to see the
A
print in
bigger
front of me.
print.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too.
I had asked them to provide a couple of hard copies.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Okay. Yeah. So if, then I guess I would recommend a motion to receive and to table.
I, David Neiman, will make a motion to receive the re-subdivision on 280 Shetucket Turnpike this evening and table the public hearing until we set a date next month.
I'll second. I second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay. I'll communicate that to the applicant.
We'd love to see a full print.
Yes.
That's I've already noted that to them. So, yeah.
Old business,
Was,
zoning regulation update discussion.
Okay,
please.
so Pete's not here, because we've talked about that already. We talked about, the only thing that he really had to go over was the issue out.
Yeah, but that's coming up. We're not there yet.
With that,
CEO
oh, that's
report.
you guys, sorry. Trying to get done.
So, so again, I apologize for being out last time. And I think probably some of my notes were a little confusing. I listened to your discussion, and the one major takeaway I took was you found that the numbering was far too cumbersome. I had used the numbering from the existing regs. And so what you should have in front of you is a much simpler numbering system outline. So it's just 8.1A1,
Yeah.
Yeah, John, that was nothing against you, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I understood.
Before,
Yeah. So, and again, we have a couple of, the chair and Juliet are both out. They tend to be the ones with the strongest opinions on some of these things. So, we can make some progress, or I can clarify some stuff. But I'd be happy to answer questions about this. But this is basically a total reworking of sections 8 through 11, just because the existing sections had been a little bit disorganized in terms of where some of the special regulations were, where the site plan requirements were, what the application procedures were. Some of it wasn't really complete. So I propose to sort of overhaul this and organize it around permitting requirements and procedures, splitting it into the administrative permit and special permit, detailing all of the procedures and processes there. I'm on page 4 right now. I just wanted to call out a couple of things that are sort of philosophical changes. Most of these are just organizational changes and tightening it up. but on the top of page 4, in terms of public notification for hearings, I added tentatively a notice of that if someone is going to have a public hearing, that they notify their neighbors, the abutters within 500 feet, at least 7 days ahead, and then displaying a sign giving notice of the hearing on the road frontage, so that people are more fully aware. And so, for instance, in the case of this re-subdivision, that would be, the neighbors would be notified and there'd be a sign on the road. That's a question. I put that in because that tends to be something that municipalities like to do in the case of public hearings, to let nearby people that might be affected know. So that's a question if you guys feel like that's a good idea, or if you want to.
Absolutely a good idea.
And then the other question is the 500 feet, which is, it's an arbitrary number. Would you like a radius or just direct abutters?
I'm terrible with that. What's 500 feet?
The 500 feet is the same thing we put in place with the cannabis, right?
Yeah,
It kind of does fit with what we,
it does,
it would also. keep
especially
it-
like in the village district where the houses are closer.
Yeah,
It does affect more people, even though they're not right up to each other.
500 feet in a circle, yeah, you could have somebody 2 properties behind you, but still be included in the 500, yeah.
500 feet at my house doesn't mean squat. But
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I have one house, it's 500 feet.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so that's generally okay.
4, so.
Yeah, the only question I have, John, about the sign, posting a sign.
Mhm.
We gotta make sure we have a definition of size and so forth on the
Yeah.
sign,
Size
because if I
lettering,
stick a
but,
sticker up in front of my house,
Yep.
that's technically a sign.
Okay.
It's gotta
Yeah, there's
clarify,
we can throw in the minimum dimension.
right?
kind of like when you go for a liquor permit, there's a size.
It has to
and
be
lettering
by
and,
8 with
yeah,
certain
yeah.
size lettering, right?
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. Thank you. And again, we can discuss anything that you have questions about. I just want to go through some of these things. On the bottom of page 7, regarding to parking requirements, in a lot of regs and in your current regs, there's these sort of basically arbitrary formulas that, if you have a retail thing, you need 1 parking space per 150 square feet of retail retail space. If you have an assembly, you need this many spaces per. If you have a restaurant, you need this many spaces per table. And they tend to be, very specific, but frankly, kind of arbitrary. And again, these are all for special permits. It's not for, a single family house or something like that. It would be for something, more complicated that would generate traffic. What I proposed in which is something that we've done in other towns, is to create off-street parking that's multifunctional, adaptive, and flexible. And the idea is that the application has to demonstrate, or the applicant has to demonstrate, that they have enough parking for the use they've proposed. And they basically have to show their math. So, a restaurant, an apartment complex, a retail store, particularly, larger retailers, know exactly how much parking they need. And they are not in the business of cheating themselves on potential parking. And because that, in a retail or restaurant sense, that basically means you don't get your customers. So this approach basically trusts the private sector to know how much parking they're going to need and to show that they've got it. And so that's basically the approach: is show us how much parking you're going to need, show your math, and show us where the parking is, to allow you to make the decision. So it takes out the specific numbers and leaves it up to the applicant to prove it.
Put the onus on them, yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's that approach. I'm happy to answer questions about that, but it eliminates the, oh, well, how many staff do you have? And here's those 5 numbers and it's 150 square feet. And it gets us out of that business. So there's that. I added a new section of landscape requirements that was based on a couple of other communities that I looked through, including Hampton, including North Stonington. Rural communities. And again, this is primarily for, more complicated proposals, commercial proposals. That basically show, the type of vegetative cover, the maintenance plan, protection of plantings, and requiring buffer areas. So it's a fair amount of landscape regulation. You may feel it's too much, but we didn't really have all that much in the current reg, so we wanted to add something there.
Is that just for the village or anywhere in Roland?
This is anywhere where you've got a special permit. And again, and particularly in areas outside the village, it's residential, it's rural, it's low density, and so you would want, if you are bringing some sort of commercial use, you would want that to be well buffered. So again, we don't have to go through this piece by piece, but I just wanted you to be aware of that was sort of a significant addition to the new reg. And again, reorganized. And then in section 10, we added a number of, we sort of put a bunch of the special permit things in the same place. And I believe we put this largely in alphabetical order. So it's reorganized. So we go through accessory apartments to beer and brew pubs, cannabis facilities. The cannabis facilities is the thing that was recently approved back in, I believe, March. So that would slot in there. I think earth excavation. Oh, and then, yeah, and then on page 19, hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts. This is in your existing regs. And that's all it is. There's really not much substance to it. And it primarily deals with driveways.
Yeah.
So we probably want a little bit more regulation, a little more substantive regulation relative to hotels, motels, and bed and breakfast. But I basically just wanted your opinion that if this is something you want me to flesh out a little bit more, because this is currently all you've got for hotels, motels, and beds and breakfasts.
Yeah, we definitely got to do something.
The good news, I suppose, is that we're adding, the revised parking requirements, we're adding increased landscape standards,
Right.
and things like that. So all of those things would apply, but in terms of, we're going to think about maximum occupancy or other elements.
Do we need to list that?
I don't know.
Separate though? I mean, they got to come for a special permit.
I mean, they have to, and so that's a good point. It's possible that you don't necessarily need additional special regulations, especially because if you look through the special permits requirements,
Right, they would have to meet all those.
they would have to meet all of those things: the landscape requirements, lighting requirements,
Yeah, parking.
parking, loading. So it's possible you don't need it at all if you allow the use, and then it applies to all the other standards. So that's the other end of the question is, do we need anything special there?
Yeah,
And the answer is probably not, actually.
to me, I mean, that's just my opinion. It doesn't, that paragraph says nothing.
Right.
But to list it purposely separate, it was almost like it was trying to be blocked or something that was trying to be come up with at one point in time, but the section in general should deal with everything, special permit.
Okay, well, I can propose to take that out, because again, there's nothing particularly special about that versus any other, commercial use that would need a special permit. Okay. And then you had a section, then this is at the top of page 20, for multifamily housing and housing for the elderly. It really deals primarily with housing for the elderly, and I think that that was probably put in place for the housing authority project. And then there's this section here, section D, about multiple family dwellings, which is just an additional sort of buffer area, and public and septic system separation. And it's, you know, that's sort of an additional reg. It seems okay with me. It's just some additional separation. But it was, but I sort of cobbled these things together. So if it's okay, then we can just leave it as is, that's fine.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. I'm back there.
I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry, Pat, was that, you're okay with that?
Yes, I'm good with it.
We're good with it, John.
Thank you. All right, and then the other couple of other things. Page 23 toward the bottom. This may be another one of those like motels and hotels. We have a line for restaurants with drive-in facilities, but there's really no reg for it.
With the rest of the special permitting, we've
Yeah.
already, they gotta prove this, do that, do this, do that. If
Yeah.
we have
And
Special reason for it to be listed out like that.
Right.
The only other thing is, you know, because restaurants with drive-in would tend to have, you know, you generally a speaker box, you know, where you would order, that could create, you know, noise concerns for neighbors. We may just want to add something for, like, in addition to landscape buffering, you know, the applicant shall demonstrate that, you know, that any exterior speakers are properly buffered in terms of their noise attenuation. That would be the only other element. But if you want to remove it entirely and just trust the landscaping, parking, circulation stuff, that's fine too.
Would that speaker thing you're talking about, would that be something that can be approached without a special line in here during the special permitting phase?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Sure, and because any special permit is inherently a negotiation and inherently something that you can condition. So that's a question that we could raise at the time of application for anything with a speaker. And because, you know, sometimes, like, if it's, well, this is a restaurant specifically, not like a bank. Yeah,
I think the only one guy I know. Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, right. How did they get theirs?
Right.
who's Duncan?
Yeah.
You got me. I don't know.
because there's nothing underneath restaurant and driving, that's why.
Yeah. Well, it's Duncan. Duncan is, I think it's around the back of the building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I bet you it's within 100 feet of one of the elderly housing
Yeah.
units, or probably less than 100 feet, but.
oh yeah, yeah. Do we ever get any complaints about that?
No, but getting back to the screening and things like that, could we put something in there for possible, like, if we do away with restaurants with drive-in facilities, could we add in prior, just for sound control, screening or something like that, especially for like Duncan with the elderly housing nearby or a neighbor, could we require fencing or something?
Yeah.
I know they do.
Right, but I know what he's saying. He's saying instead of listing restaurants or driving facilities,
Get away with
just
that.
in the special permitting area, we put something to do with sound, period. It pertains to everybody.
Right,
Right. So you could, yeah. So in landscape requirements here,
yeah,
Proper.
yeah, we could add something. Let me just add a note here about noise attenuation.
correct. If needed, you know, it
But you're
it can be a site-by-site basis. I mean, if they're surrounded by state forest.
Yeah, but at least now it's in the general. We don't
Right.
need to list out one.
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. I think that makes good sense. All right, let me get back here.
Page 23, special event facilities.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take that one out. Okay, and that's new. And it was just looking at some other rural community regulations. Where people are, putting up like wedding venues and small outdoor concert things and whether it be, I don't know, whatever, dirt bike tracks or things like that. Wanted to put in, some consideration of that and put in, some additional buffer hours of operation, things like that. Because these tend to be, where it's not sort of a restaurant where you have sort of a steady baseline of things. These are, something where hundreds and hundreds of people come all at once, sort of sporadic but intense events, requiring a little bit more thoughtfulness in terms of design.
There's two of it
Yeah.
up in the base as well.
I mean, if you feel if it's repetitive.
Quick question for you to John.
Yeah.
This was made mostly for large events, concerts, things like that. Would this also apply to, let's say, if somebody were to come in and put a wedding venue in? 'Cause-
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
And that's actually, I believe a lot of this is what I took from Hampton, which if anyone is familiar with Hampton, they just put up a fairly substantial wedding venue up on Route 6. And that's, they use it twice a weekend, right? But it's hundreds and hundreds of people.
Right.
And 90% of the time there's nothing going on.
so my point is that 10.15A, location property shall have fronting and primary access from a state highway. That limits a lot of properties in town.
It does. And that's something that we could talk about, but again, that's intended to be a thing to prevent overuse of the rural roads that really aren't
Yeah.
built for that kind of traffic.
By this, they can't have anything big, which they do weddings already. Like if another one went in,
Yeah,
Who's they? What, Tamarack?
Tamarack, I mean, I know they're existing.
Yeah.
And they're grandfathered in, but if we had another small business like that in town, someplace, beachfront, wherever,
yeah, that first rule was kind of.
that hinders
Well,
them.
yeah. So that's fine. I mean, that's something that we could certainly take
Uh,
out. And, like you're worried about the other special permit stuff, traffic, noise, circulation,
Right.
landscaping, but yeah, that's,
I mean, the state highway, maybe if they can prove the road that they're on can handle it, to have a traffic study or, just give them options, whoever it might be. I just don't want to hinder any new business in the town when we don't have any.
Somebody owns 80 acres just off the beaten path and they can't do nothing with it.
I'm also thinking of the big farm. That who knows what's gonna happen
Yeah.
up there and down that whole valley.
Probably.
Well, no, not that one.
Oh, I was thinking of all that property that got sold up past you.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know what's going on with that. I know it sold, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, he loves it. Actually, I went and saw him last week and he's doing a great job up there. He doesn't plan to do anything with it.
He's keeping it
He's
farm.
keeping it in the
Oh,
farm.
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, that's where he wants to live out his days.
all right. So something like this. I don't know if you can read that.
More applications to demonstrate the local roads are suitable
Yeah,
to support projected traffic volume. Right, so kind of leave
Yeah,
it, well, how do I prove suitable?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, you guys are the judge and the jury on that.
right.
But it does leave it instead of being so. No.
Yeah, it opens up more, sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
And also thinking Tamarack sells it, which they have had it up for sale forever. And then new owners come in and they want to wreck it and redo it and make a better venue or whatever.
Well, guess what?
Guess what? You can't. because you're updating everything. And then now it's houses. You know,
So there's that, and,
Page 20.
oh, yeah, so we're on page 26.
20.
Where we have a lot about wind energy in the
Oh,
current regs.
Before you go there, could you back up to 24?
Yeah, page 24.
You got two things highlighted right there, performance standards and something below that.
Oh, yeah, that's just, that's a note, because that's a reference to another section of the regs, and the regs have, the sections haven't been finalized yet.
Okay.
So I'll put that section reference in.
It was highlighted, so I wanted to ask it. though.
Yes, yeah, thanks. And so for wind and solar energy, we had a bunch for wind. We had nothing for solar. And it's, you know, the question I would have for you is, probably, you know, roof mounted solar, we as the Planning and Zoning Commission don't regulate because it's on an existing building. Ground mounted, if it's, you know, residential scale, if it's a couple of panels, we just regulate it as an accessory structure, like a shed.
Right.
At over a megawatt, I think, is it 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts? Over a couple of megawatts, the state siting council takes over, and it's not really subject to local reg. But there is this middle ground that could be, you know, a fair number of, you know, it could be a fairly sizable small scale commercial installation that I didn't know if we want to have additional.
Do we have a slippery slope there? Because if you call it a solar farm, it is technically under agricultural.
No. Nobody. The ag people scream every time you call it a solar farm.
Do it.
Yeah. It's yeah, and because unfortunately far too often it actually takes up actual good farmland for it.
That's why they want it, because they don't have to take trees down.
Right. Yeah, and you know, the soil isn't stony. You know, they foundations going easy. But yeah, so it's just a question of if we want to establish any kind of additional standard for that sort of middle ground of you know, larger than home scale but smaller than siting council. And the answer might be no. It could be a structure like any other.
Well, you can really screen it off, I guess. I mean, I guess you could.
If you screen it off, are you blocking the light for the purpose of it, or?
How do you feel, Willie? You're the only one here that's sitting next to a big.
Well, I have trees, it's my neighbor had the same thing, giant solar panels, but the house right next to it, the guy looks out in the sunroom and sees these giant solar panels.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know, I mean, you can't really put anything up. Cause then it wouldn't block the sun, so it's like, how do you buffer that without?
Right.
Yeah, you'd think a good solar installation would site themselves on a piece of property where there is no likely large structures, you know, gonna go up, you know, within a couple dozen feet of there.
It's literally 10 feet from the neighbor's property line.
Right, but right there, we're dealing with the residential one again, which,
Yeah.
it's just like a shed,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
John, do you know of any other towns that have anything in place for something like that?
Not really. Or nothing comes to mind in the towns that I've worked in. So I could look into this a little bit more.
I mean, if they had something that made sense, like the reflectivity of the light,
Yeah,
500 solar panels would melt the siding off this poor guy's house or something, you know, yeah, we might want something, but is there proof of that, or is there regulation of that somehow, you know, just the location, or
Could that happen?
I've actually seen siding like warp because of the reflection off of the solar panel.
right.
My question is, the siting council does 1 megawatt and larger, correct?
I think it was 1 or 2, but yeah, 1 might be right.
So what am I to wrap my brain around, like, how many square feet are we talking equals
Yeah, 1 megawatt.
1 megawatt? Like solar panel wise,
I can tell you that 32 solar panels on a roof produces, at my house, they're telling me would produce 15.6 kW.
okay. How many KW?
And they're only the roof panels.
Right.
They're not even that big.
Right,
I don't know, I figured.
I'm just trying to wrap
I figured
my,
he'd be able to bat that one.
So, yeah, okay, so I'm just Googling it right now. But it said for a typical solar installation, a general rule of thumb is for every kilowatt of solar panels, the area required is approximately 100 square feet. So 100 square feet per kilowatt. So that would mean that there would be, for a megawatt, would be 100,000 square feet or 2.5 acres.
Oh, I guess it's not as big as I thought it would be.
it's not as big as I thought either.
So 2.5 acres, so anything, so you could do 2 acres
So
Correct.
that means more.
of solar and not trip into siting council.
You're
I mean,
probably like
I don't know why you would only do 2 acres, but
A megawatt. Comfortable. But it has to be perfect, it has to get the right sun, it can't be on the side of the hill, it can't be.
Right, but what I'm getting at is just buffering for the neighbors, if at all possible. They must have at least, X amount of acreage, like double what they're using it for. Does that make any sense? Something, gotta have something.
But then we
Just so
also
that-
have to put with that, it's not with, yeah, they have 10 acres, but they put it on where Pat's.
Correct.
Border, it has the other
Yeah.
5 over there they're not using.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No,
2 acres.
now, if we put it under the special permit section, they would still apply to the having to put the signage up that we're talking about, public hearing, blah, 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 notify the neighbors.
yes. Yeah.
I mean,
If
that's-
it's, so we could, I mean, that's the thing. So you could put it at, residential scale, so it would be whatever, 300 or 300 square feet or whatever whatever a reasonable residential ground mount would be. And basically say, so maybe anything between, 300 kilowatt hours and 1 megawatt hour. That's a special permit.
Yeah. that sounds good.
Sounds like we should, and then
Yeah.
just come up with a few rules to put in there to.
Yes,
Somebody could
Just
come
for
along.
setbacks and.
yes.
Well, that's it, somebody could come along and buy some of this property and go, hey, I'm dropping.
Yeah.
And if they do it with multiple pieces of property, they don't have to go to the state, so they just do, oh,
Correct.
a small one. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, my wife owns that one.
Yeah, there's
My
60
kid owns that one,
Yep.
yeah,
Boom, boom,
yeah.
Oh, that happens a lot. And actually the legislature is trying to fix that, these, big solar developers are doing, there's different tax breaks if you're doing, 2 megawatts versus 10 megawatt. And it kind of, people are gaming that system. So, yeah. Okay, that's good. And then I think that's it. Those were the things that I wanted.
So in the signage area that you have at the very end, would we
Yeah.
put a sign in there for the proposed size sign that would be needed to notify your neighbors?
No, I'll put that in the special permit section or in the neighbor notification, because these are really intended to be permanent signs.
Okay. Okay.
So, like we're not regulating, real estate for sale signs or political signs or, another great job by, Jack's Home Painters or, nothing like that. But anyway, yeah, I'll put it up in the neighbor notification section.
Awesome.
Okay, well, so that gives me the direction on some of those on certain things. So I'll polish this up for next time and we can get back into the overall cleanup of the regs.
Perfect.
Great,
Thanks, John.
thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence, Ms. Taylor? Oh, put her on the spot.
Right, back up.
No, is that correspondence or is that the CEO report?
That's part of it.
We did get that very lengthy
Oh, you could.
complaint report.
Right, that was,
Oh,
I had, put that on everybody, I believe I scanned it, put it on everybody,
It was in the agenda thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is what I read. So this is to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Pete and Sue and Tracy Hanson, Trish Sullivan and Hank Ricker.
you gotta speak up, please.
Rickerati. Follow up to the complaint for 479 Beach Pond Road and additional information for review by Planning and Zoning Commission zoning officer, April 20th. As you recall, this matter was brought before the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 12th. At that meeting, information was provided to all members to supplement the written complaint, supplement a written complaint which was lodged regarding 479 Beach Pond Road in February 2023 with zoning officer Pete Mingles. The complaint concerns ongoing commercial lumber mill activity at that address, which is a residential zone. We have attached to this memo additional information that was requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission, including evidence that commercial advertising exists to support the claim that the sale of lumber, firewood, and other wood-related products is presently occurring on the residential property. These commodities are being offered for sale by David Beige, who runs a sawmill on the property. All right. Additional information includes Allentown's assessor's card, printouts of the current advertising, Connecticut 5-foot regulations regarding movement of firewood maps reflecting required documentation, certificate of origin required by the DEP regarding in-state firewood transportation, Connecticut State Agency regulations regarding firewood transported into and within Connecticut. We also provided the video showing the delivery of timber to the property via boom truck by Warwick Tree Service Company based in Coventry, Rhode Island. The video was emailed to Susan Showcase. We were told at the meeting on April 12th that another site visit would be made by Mr. Zinglis, and the matter would also be referred to the town attorney. Please provide us with an update in light of the additional information. We can be reached at. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I was not here.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed it. This wasn't all in the pack, but did you look at all that? Oh, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. We have
So
quite a-
I'm assuming the correspondence is now going to tie into the CEO report because I saw that he did return.
Correct.
Are you
Correct.
speaking on behalf of Pete
Yes,
tonight?
I am speaking on behalf of Pete this evening. So in light of the evidence that was presented by the complainants, right? A cease and desist order was sent out to the homeowner. And she has responded at this point. Pete has not had the opportunity to speak with her, but she has responded to the office and claims that there is no business happening at the property.
Hmm.
So the next step is for her, she's been directed to come into the office to meet with Pete directly. From there, what happens, I'm not sure what happens next, but the cease and desist order has gone out. And that was, yeah.
Does a nice job. I know.
But that's a lot of advertising.
It is a lot of advertising for somebody who doesn't have a business.
Yeah.
So Pete will have more information for you.
So he's still ongoing then, right?
Oh, yes, it is, it is.
Yeah, no.
What did the owner do?
I believe the owner, if I read that paperwork right, is a lady. She owns a house. The person who's advertising is somebody else, and the person running the sawmill is somebody else. Like, there's no same last name, but I should say somebody else.
Is it possible the owner doesn't know that that's happening?
No,
No,
no.
I don't know
There
if she's
is not
living in
possible that
Ford
he
or
doesn't know
something.
that
you know.
She's not an absentee owner, then she doesn't own the house and live in Oregon.
Right, that's what I was checking.
That's all good, you know, bro.
I've actually filled them up. I've actually gotten that permit before.
Patricia might be very interested if
Yeah.
she was here.
Yeah. Yeah, here's the one. Oh,
Is this the-
how much it is?
How much
and
they selling
everything.
stuff for?
Yeah.
Address how much, this is what I got for sale, I'm not selling stuff.
Yeah, give me a map to get there.
If it wasn't me, people, I'd probably know, but.
What if the guy just sold firewood, you know, like a bundle at a time?
Yeah, there's.
We didn't need a permit for that. John?
Sorry, what was the question?
If he, I noticed he's got this little box there, for bundles of wood. Does he need a permit to do that? Does anyone?
If the wood was just his, like if he was harvesting his own wood from his own property,
No,
that's legit. That is basically equivalent to a farm stand because forestry is agriculture. So it's essentially if he was picking apples and selling apples from his own property. But the claim is that he's processing wood from God knows where,
Out of state.
yeah, out of state.
Mhm.
which is different from a farm.
Out of state, yeah. They could be processing it in Connecticut, but.
$500. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, maybe we could order some. Then we have him.
Not now, we're telling us.
Then we have-
Yeah, great, you just gave us money for credit.
James Bond. Oh, that's good. Waiting box, Elliot. Sample, yeah. 25, what's the last? Found all this.
Pardon me?
Who found this?
All they did.
He's bringing the thing.
I'm not operating my business by somebody that comes in from another state.
Yeah.
If you live there, you can. You're the one doing the hearing.
Yeah, it's got something about invasive species there. Yeah,
There is definite.
Oh, yeah, there's a big permit process when you're crossing state
Yeah.
lines with firewood and lumber and all kinds of stuff.
It's because of bugs. and
It's,
stuff like that.
yeah, insects inside and stuff like
I
that.
figured
spreading
that's
it.
what it was.
Yeah.
but,
okay. Too bad, I could have shipped them all my. Oh.
Why all the ashes are dying right now.
Really?
The ash borer bug.
Yeah.
Yeah,
killing all of them.
yeah, ask about it.
Oh, geez. So that was the correspondence and CEO report. Which we don't have to do anything with, correct? We're just in limbo. Planner report.
Would the board want to just give them an update that we are pursuing
All of the people
the
that,
people who made the complaint, just to
did
let
they
them know
have
we
an
have.
update from Pete or no?
No,
I believe Taylor, you sent them a copy of the cease and desist, right?
Oh, so they do have.
So they
an
do have something.
Okay,
Okay, just so
So
that.
they know.
right, we're just not answering them.
For planner report, other than being very, very pleased that we have Taylor with us. And I'd recommend, I'd entertain a motion to formally fire Sue. That was a joke. So I just want to report that we were recently successful in, we submitted a sidewalk grant that would connect the sidewalk on the south side of Main Street, basically from the corner of Church Street where the package store is, all the way on the south side of that same road, along Beach Pond, all the way to basically Route 49, past the Town Pizza. So it would basically connect the village with Town Pizza and the hardware store there.
Yeah.
That's actually good. I see a lot of people walk up to Town Pizza to work and stuff like that. And they're-
And that's because of the little section of bridge right there is actually quite narrow. The grant included a small footbridge that would go sort of parallel
Oh, wow.
to the bridge. So it's about a $900,000 grant that will hopefully get finalized by the state this summer, and we can I would anticipate ultimately it probably wouldn't be constructed until next year, but we'll have a sidewalk connecting the village with the town pizza.
Awesome.
That was good stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You were hoping I was gonna say no, huh?
Adjourned. I didn't know you were gonna be something else to say.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Thank you, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, John.
Oh, goodbye, Sue.
You just better hope you don't run into her in dark alley.